Right, so in this video, I'm going to explain briefly what happens to a decimal number when we multiply it by 10, 100 or 1000, and what happens to a decimal number when we divide it by 10, 100 and 1000. Right, so I have taken 3 examples. So in each of these examples, there's a decimal number, the same decimal number, which is 2.1, right? So in the first one, I have multiplied 2.1 by 10, then 2.1 by 100, then 2.1 by 1000. Okay, so when we multiply 2.1 by 10, the correct answer is 21. 2.1 multiplied by 100, the correct answer is 210. 2.1 multiplied by 1000, the correct answer is 2100. Right. So now we need to understand how we get the correct answer. Okay, so I will write down the decimal number, which is 2.1. Right? So we know when we multiply 2.1 by 10, the final answer should be 21. Right? So we need to understand how do we start from here and end up to here. Right? So the first thing that you need to understand, whenever we multiply a decimal number by 10 or by 100 or by 1000, what happens? This decimal point moves. This decimal point moves. Now, if we take the number 2.1, and since we are multiplying it by 10, and we know if we multiply a decimal number by 10, 100 or 1000, this decimal point moves. So the next question that comes into our mind, the direction where the decimal point moves. Whether it moves to the right hand side or to the left hand side. Right? So whenever we are multiplying using any of these numbers, the decimal point moves to the right hand side. So the decimal point moves to the right hand side. Okay? So now we know which direction the decimal point moves. Right? So when it starts to move, it should stop, no? නවතින විදිහක් දැනගන්න ඕන. Right? So take the number 10. We know that 10 has only one zero. That means when we multiply 2.1 by 10, the decimal point moves to the right hand side only once. Right? So at the moment the decimal point is here, when we do the multiplication, it will end up here, which is next to the number 1. Then we get the answer as what? 21. Right. So in the same manner, same decimal number, so we are going to multiply by what? 100. So now we know what happens. We are multiplying a decimal number by 100. That means this decimal point moves to the right hand side. So when does it stop? 100 has 2 zeros. So this decimal point moves to the right hand side how many times? 2 times. Or we can say this decimal point jumps to the right hand side 2 times. Right? So at the moment the decimal point is here, so it will jump once and another one. Right? So after the number 1, we don't have any numbers, no? So what do? We put a 0. So at the moment, where is the decimal point? It is right next to this 0. Right? So 2.1 multiplied by 100, what do we get? 210. Right, in the same manner, we will discuss what happens to 2.1 when we multiply it by 1000, right? So, same decimal number which is 2.1. So, we are multiplying by 1000, right? So, we definitely know the decimal point moves to the right hand side. How many places? 3 places, okay? So, one jump, another jump, and another jump, right? So here there are no numbers now. So we will put what? Zeros, right? So finally, when we do the multiplication, where is the decimal point? Right next to this zero. So we will get the answer as 2100. Right. So now we know what happens to a decimal number when we multiply it by 10, 100 or 1000. In the same manner, we need to understand what happens to a number when we divide it by 10, 100 and 1000. Right? So here I have taken 3 examples, right? So if you look closely, the decimal number in the 3 examples are the same, right? So we are dividing it by 10, 100 and 1000, right? So you need to understand that these are the correct answers. Right? So we need to come up with a way to explain how to get the answers. Right. So take the first one. So there we have 7817.8. We need to divide it by 10. When we multiply a decimal number, right, this decimal point moves to the right hand side. When we divide, the opposite happens. This decimal number moves, but to which direction? To the left hand side. Right? So, how many places or how many jumps to the left hand side? 1. So, what happens? This decimal point ends here. That means in front of the digit 7. So, what do we get as the answer? 781.78. Right. In the next example, we are dividing the same decimal number by 100. Right? So then what happens? So we will write down the decimal number 7817.8. So we need to divide it by 100. So definitely we know this decimal point jumps to the left hand side. How many places? 100 has 2 zeros, no? So 2 places to the left side, right? So finally this decimal point ends up right after the digit 8 or in front of digit 1, right? So what will be the answer? 78.178. Right. So in the very last example regarding division, what do we have? We have 7817.8. We need to divide it by 1000. And when we do that, we get the answer as 7.8178. Right. So if we take the number 7817.8 and divide it by 1000, what happens? We know we are dividing this number by 1000. So that means this decimal point jumps to the left hand side. Or else we can say the decimal point moves to the left hand side. How many places? We are dividing by 1000. 1000 has 3 zeros, right? So here we have the decimal point. So it should move to the left hand side, or it should jump to the left hand side. So that means finally the decimal point ends between 7 and 8. Right. So I hope that you have understood what I have taught you, right? So this is a very brief video, but what you have learned is very important, right? Because the concept that you have learned, you will definitely come across with it when you are multiplying and dividing decimals, and also when you are going through unit conversions, right? And another thing, so when you are in grade 7, 8, in higher grades like that, right? So even though we see these numbers as different numbers, actually these numbers belongs to the same family, right? These are actually what? You will learn that these are powers of 10. Powers of 10, right? So not only 10, 100,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, all those numbers belongs to the same family, right? So don't understand that these are equal. These are not equal, but all of these numbers belong to a same family. So that is what? Powers of 10. So you will learn that in higher grades, right? Always remember, when we multiply a decimal number, the decimal point jumps to the right hand side, right? How many places? So we have to look at the number that we are multiplying. So here it can be 10, 100, 1000 or any other power of 10. And in the same manner, when we divide a number by 10, 100 or 1000, that means any power of 10, what happens? The decimal point jumps to the left hand side. Right.